Week's Facebook Live. Today I'm talking about the implications of perfectionism, and there can be many reasons why somebody might develop um, perfectionism. But we have to realize that perfectionism is actually quite toxic for the person themselves, and has implications as well for others around them. But perfectionism has got nothing to do with striving for your best. Getting things right. We all want to do our best. We all want to get things right. But that is nothing to do with this perfectionism, even though it's got the word perfect in it, has got nothing to do with that. Really. It's not about setting healthy, and this is the key. It's not healthy. It's not healthy, achievements. It's not about setting personal growth. Um, it's got nothing really to do with that. It's actually very unhealthy because the person, although they think they're striving for being perfect and getting things done right, there's a lot of destructive thinking going on in their head, because they're striving to meet higher and higher standards that are just unrealistic, you know, and unattainable for most part. And this, is very toxic. It's very unhealthy. It's often accompanied by, overcritical thinking and behaviors. So, as I said, this can be quite toxic. It can be self-defeating, and destructive, and really does cause problems for you if this is you or other people around you. So the implications then for this toxicity, really, and this it's a form of cognitive distortion in your head. So you need professional help for this one. So the implications for this is you high stress, high anxiety, of course. You're at higher risk then of developing other mental health issues, such as very common will be depression, and burnout. You keep going, you keep going, you keep going. You're going to push yourself until you burn out. Low self esteem is quite common here, because it often develops in childhood as a way of keeping everybody happy, getting sorting everything. People pleasing is also very common here. So they struggle to say no to people. Um, they also have this sense that tasks have to be performed perfectly or they're a failure. So they have a strong sense and fear of failure. This thing is, so if I fail at something, I am a failure. They've equated that to this core belief is I'm a failure and I'm not good enough. So they have this I'm not good enough core belief, these two core beliefs in there. They can't switch off, they can't relax. And this is exhausting. So you can see why the stress would go up, the anxiety would go up. It's quite exhausting trying to keep these standards that keep going up and up and up. And the only person that tends to create the standards, these unrealistic standards, is the person themselves. So these expectations go up and up and up. They could have anger issues, so there could be angry outbursts. An awful lot of the time, though, you can see martyrdom and passive aggressive behaviors here instead, because they're not saying no to people. They're afraid to say no to people, and people with the people pleasing. So they'll suffer on in silence. But you'll get the passive aggressiveness coming out, and the martyrdom coming out here too. That can be there. But you can't have somebody who actually lashes out verbally. In I'm sure a small number of cases you might also get that physical lashing out too. Um, so there is a sense of no self acceptance. They are just not good enough. So there's no self compassion, no self forgiveness here, for getting things wrong. They also tend to be very ineffective at communicating. So communication skills are not very good, and they can't be honest with themselves. So therefore, they're not being honest with other people, and the relationship suffers as a result. The relationships can suffer for multiple reasons because they can hold themselves to a very high standards, but then they can hold other people to very high standards. And they're also hiding themselves, and that's what I mean about not being honest. They'll hide their true self. They'll have this front, but they don't feel they can relax enough to show that themselves, show the real selves. And what they're trying to do here is they want your approval. They want you to actually acknowledge, you know, you're doing a great job there by being this perfect being. But what's happening is really, you know, people get that sense, you know, they're not being honest, they're not being themselves. How can I keep up with this person who appears to get everything right, to be that high level of standard? You know, the grooming tends to be, it can be a very good, you know, prominent issue with them, that things are groomed, the way they turn themselves out, even though inside they're dying, and it's like, this is not the real me. You know, but this is all about gaining approval, and it's this certain standard, but that tends to push people away, because people see, God, I could never do that. I could never reach your standard. I could never be you. I just won't, I won't be good enough to reach that standard. Um, so then they get pushed away. They can also be seen as a bit boring because, you know, the rules are in place. The rules have to be kept in place. You know, they can't let their hair down and relax because it's, things have to be done in a certain way. Things have to be done perfectly, and it's a perfectly in terms of their standard, this standard, and the standard can keep going up and up, as I said. So they can be very controlling over their own lives, and the lives maybe of their partner and children. And as I said, you know, this is unrealistic. These standards can be, and rules can be, very unrealistic. And again, others can't meet them. So they could be getting, you know, met with this barrage of criticism because they can't get it right. Um, the other thing is that, you know, they find it hard to relax, as I said, but they also find it hard to celebrate success. If it isn't perfect, the perfect, and it is in inverted commas here, and if it isn't 100%, so 99.9% will be seen as a failure. So anything less than 100%. So they just kind of, you know, who reaches 100% of the time? This is just unrealistic, absolutely unrealistic view of how things operate in our world. And we have to be aware of that. So they do find it difficult to celebrate that, to celebrate those wins, the good enoughs, and the small achievements. They do find that difficult to do, and they find it difficult to, you know, join in. Oftentimes they'll also avoid doing new things or trying new things. So they can be seen as somebody who's boring and stuck in a rut for that reason. And again, this stems from this fear of failure, this strong sense and fear of failure. So they're avoiding because it's a defense mechanism. That's what they're doing here. The avoidance is actually a defense mechanism. And as I said, you know, people pleasing can be very strong. So saying no to people can be very, very difficult to, you know, difficult for them. It's all about their appearance. It's the outward appearance. I'm not just talking about your physical appearance. I'm talking about what they can do and what they can achieve. It's all about this. So very unhealthy boundaries here, and as a result, they are very, very much likely to attract what I can class as negative vampires, people who will, you know, manipulate them and abuse them and get them to do things. So they can take on excessive amounts of responsibility. And even within the home, they will do everything because who else could do the job right, basically, or in the workplace, like, who else can do this job as well as I can? Who can get it right? Nobody else can do it to my standard. And they are right. Like, this is an unrealistic standard, so who else could do it? Um, Basically, perfectionism is a no-win. It's a no-win situation here. And they do need to reach out for professional support. Because there's an awful lot going on here in terms of what their core beliefs, unhealthy boundaries, what's going on in their head, their critical thinking and that, and their behaviours. But this can be extremely hard for somebody with perfectionism. One, to recognize it, and two, to actually do it, to actually step forward and say, yeah, I recognize I need help here. But therapy is very effective. It really is. And it will help with reduced stress and anxiety. And an awful lot of the time, somebody like this will go to therapy because they're stressed, or they have reached burnout, or they have depression, they've developed depression, so they'll have developed something else, and then, when things are delved into, this will come up. So the therapist would be able to tailor the plan to suit the person and what's going on for them. As always, that's what they should be doing. So they'll help with the stress and anxiety, as I said, and any other mental health issues that might be there. But they're also going to help them tackle the boundary issues. The people pleasing, the toxic shame. There's a lot of toxic shame and guilt going on there, and the core beliefs that I've talked about. This fear of failure as well. So the key to recovery in all of this is, it is to reach out and ask for help, but the core key really here is about self-compassion and self-forgiveness and self-acceptance. It's self-acceptance is going to be your key here. And I've done videos on this, and if you link in through the blog, which I'll put in the description below, you'll be able to find links out to those videos where I talk about self-acceptance, self-compassion and self-forgiveness. And there are other videos now. I'm going to talk about a bit of self-help that you can do, and there are other videos. I've done a lot of videos at this stage, and on podcasts and that, up on the website. So if you do want to check it out, it's at www.DBpsychologyservices.com. So bit of basic self-help, but I have to emphasize here, you do need professional help alongside this. Start to say no. Now this is hugely hard to do, and I have a free training. Come and join the group, a free group with lots of training up there. There's about 18 months of free training in there at this stage. Again, you'll find the link in that. If you're struggling to say no, even if you don't have perfectionism, but you find yourself struggling to say no and you're a woman, come and join the group. You'll find the training there in that. So that would be one thing you do. But basic self-care, I keep going back to this. Your basic self-care is vital. And the reason it's vital is because it's helping you set a boundary with yourself. So you're starting to set those boundaries you're having difficulties with. Set a healthy boundary with yourself and with others, because you're saying, no, I'm going to put myself first. I'm going to look after my basic self-care needs. And that's what it's about. You're looking after your basic mental and physical self-care needs. It's the basis, the foundation, or the building blocks, as I call them, of self-care. And you need to have that structure in place to go out from, to build out from. It has to have a strong structure. So that is one thing you can start doing. They're sleep, meditation, journaling, making sure you're eating right, exercising. There's a whole host of them in there. And again, I've done loads of videos on this. Having a positive support team around you here is going to be important, and I've done a video on this as well, and one on building healthy boundaries. Please go and have a look at those if you're interested. But everybody needs a positive support system around them. So there are 4 parts to that, so do go and check that out. You need, your doctor needs to be in there. If you have a therapist, they're going to be in there. It's not just about friends and family members. There's different people you need in different situations, and they all make up this positive support system. Being a perfectionist can be very isolating and lonely, so you need to start building that strong circle of positive support system in there for yourself. Stress reduction is going to be important. Again, I've got lots of videos on that, and it's actually what I'm going to talk about next week. I'm going to give you some more tips, some new tips on stress reduction. Again, though, there's lots. I do stress reduction all the time in my group. Every week I put up new tips on how to reduce your stress. So if you want, come and join the group and have a look at that as well. But as I said, the first thing you really need to do here is recognize that I need help. If you want to do some self-help, you've got to recognize I need help here. And that, your life needs to change. And it is an overall life change you're going to be looking at here. And that can be so scary. When you recognize that can be really scary. And this is why I'm saying to you, you need to start putting that positive support system in there to help you, to support you. Because you're reevaluating what you do for others. You're reevaluating what you do in your life, everyday life, and how you do it. And that needs a positive support system in place when you start to recognize that I need help and I need to reevaluate my life. You can also start by setting realistic goals. What's manageable and what's attainable, but realistic. This can be a difficult one again. Do I realize what's realistic? Do I realize what's manageable? I mightn't be able to do that. So focusing on one small task and just doing it is important. Don't fall into the procrastination hole, and this is a problem for perfectionism as well, that they do procrastinate because of the fear of failure. So just do one small task. Tiny, the smallest, something you can do for 3 or 5 minutes, tiny task. Just focus on just doing that, and then the next task and the next, but only small amounts that you can get done in a realistic amount of time. You need time off, and learning to be able to go, okay, that's grand, I can let that go, that's good enough. The good enough standard is what you're going to have to really relearn, and this is why you need the therapy for it. Start to check your own self-talk. How am I talking to myself? Likely this is going to be very negative. As I said, there's going to be some core negative beliefs in there. So, what messages are you sending to yourself? Start to recognize, is there a pattern there? And this can be very helpful when, you can do this in conjunction with your therapist. They will help you see this. But if you start to record a journal and do this, you are also actually helping yourself as well. So you are starting to wake yourself up to become aware of how you talk to yourself. So, focus on the positives as well. So what are you grateful for? Again, we're not good, if you're a perfectionist, not good at celebrating wins, small wins even. So gratitude is going to be very important here too for self-help. What small wins can I celebrate today? Even one win of the day, and maybe 3 things you're grateful for is a good place to start. That's the beginning. Again, you can do this in conjunction with your therapist, but it's something you can do yourself. And gratitude has been shown to boost our positive mental health. It can boost it quite quickly and will last for a lot longer. But if you don't, and the message really this morning is, if you don't tackle perfectionism, the implications are that it's very destructive, both for your physical and mental health. So really you owe it to yourself, and you do owe it to yourself to get help. So I'd ask that you do, reach out. So I will leave it there. And as always, thank you very much for listening. I'll be here next week, and as I said already in the blog, I'll give you some stress tips next week, some new stress tips next week. If you want to join me, do please join me. And if you need any help, as always, I'm here. If you need me, just let me know. Come and work with me, or you can, if you're in the group, you have the option to private message me for free. And so do check out that link in the description. And if you have any comments, I welcome comments as well, so comment away. As always, thank you for those who watch live. Thank you very much for those who watch on replay. And I will talk to you all again next week.